Meta Perspective Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to Meta Perspective Podcast. We're your host, Alex.
Evan.
And just to give you an idea, we've been doing this podcast for over a year now.
Yeah,
And,
almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years. And mainly on Twitch. Tonight's our first night going to YouTube.
Yeah. It's
And-
been live every Monday for a long time now.
A long time. Just to give you guys an idea of what Meta Perspective is. Meta Perspective Podcast is not all about facts and truth. It's a lot of it, while that's in there, a lot of it is our perspectives. You know, when we tell you to like, subscribe, and jump in the chat, jumping in the chat is crucial. It's what your participation is what puts the meta in Meta Perspective Podcast. You know, we're trying to come to a universal truth of our own experiences and our own understandings.
It's also not about the company that used to be called Facebook. Just to clarify.
Nothing to do with that.
It actually started before before Facebook became Meta. So
Yeah, we were Meta before it was cool.
Confused.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's basically, you know, Meta Perspective. It's the idea that whatever topic it might be, and we do go into a lot of deep topics, things that aren't necessarily proven by fact. You know, things like aliens, spirits. You know, we talk about spirituality, science, all these things that kind of open your mind and kind of expand your level of thought and make you question your own reality. These are the topics that we like to focus on, and our approach is like Alex was saying, we're not trying to teach you facts and say that these things are definitive truths. We are kind of trying to distill what's out there and find the fundamentals that resonate with people and that we can all kind of agree on. And then from there, we try to come up with a unique perspective that ties everything in together and, you know, doesn't miss anything. And we do our best to give you, something that's enlightening and that will make you think. And that's really kind of the goal of a lot of this. Sometimes you just bullshit. Sometimes you get really deep, but like, you know, in a consistent way, we make you think. We take you from a status of just simple mind down to the depths of the earth and the depths of your mind. And we've had a lot of good responses from past chatters. Obviously, we have the chat up here, so we see and respond to whatever you say. And we just want to figure all this stuff out. You know, life is a timey-wimey, warbly mess, and sometimes it's hard to make sense of certain things, and that's why we're doing this. So.
And now that we're on YouTube, we're hoping we get even more people in the chat. We are soon going to be getting callers, so we're going to be able to get you guys calling in to have just straightforward, open conversations instead of just responding to your replies. And I guess all there is to say is today's episode is, what is Meta? Not Facebook.
Yeah,
it's not Facebook. I can answer that one for you. It's not Facebook.
We thought we'd kind of start. I mean, our debut episode on Facebook or on YouTube.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's our debut episode on YouTube. I just did it again. We wanted to at least get something that was kind of covered the show, fully encompass what we're about, and we don't really know where it's going to go, but you know, we're gonna provide a basis to move forward with a lot of the topics that we've talked about in the past. We're probably going to be bringing them up again. Now we're a refined level, since we've already done a lot of topics on. We've done everything. You know, we talked about society, things like depression and mental health. We've talked about AI. We've talked about evolution, experiments that people have done.
We haven't done the flat Earth yet, but
No.
It's coming. Everything else, yeah, I think we've
Maybe
covered
one day.
pretty much everything else. Yeah.
Topic's kind of flat.
Ba-dum-ts. That's coming shortly. It's already here, but
Square Earth theory. That's another one.
the square Earth theory. It combines both theories into one. It's my favorite. And it's hollow. Just spoiler alert.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I think a good way to start it off is just going over the obvious definition of what is meta.
Yeah, the word meta.
The word meta.
It's been thrown around a lot, especially with Facebook and all that.
Yeah, they kind of ruined it.
They tried to take control of the word meta. They don't. It doesn't belong to them.
Yeah, you just Google what is meta, and it's like Meta used to be Facebook. You're like, that's not what I mean.
No.
What does meta mean? Okay, meta means of a creative work, referring to itself or the conventions of its genre, self-referential. The enterprise is quotes. The enterprise is inherently meta, since it doesn't review movies. For example, it reviews the reviewers who review movies.
That must be a company or like a website.
Yeah, probably one of those IMDb
I thought you were
things.
talking about like the Star Trek Enterprise for a second. That was like,
Yeah, no, so I mean, basically the idea is like meta perspective. The show is not about me and Evan telling you our perspectives. The show is about you jumping in with your perspectives too, and all of us coming up with what we believe is the most rational perspective. And if you disagree with that, that's your reason to jump into the chat. That's your reason to join in and add your 2 cents to help the progress of the conversation
and
form
yeah,
thoughts.
And the area that we try to get to is a perspective that, you know, like the definition suggests, it's self-referencing. It's on every level that you could look at something, you know, this perspective should hold true, and like that's what we try to find. We might not always do it, but you know, I know there's a lot of people out there talking about various things that even we talk about, and we try to offer something unique. It's not just going to be regurgitating what you hear on Joe Rogan, things like that. We really try to you know, because we've been friends for a long time, right? So like over 10 years. And throughout that time, we've had so many deep conversations that it really made us who we are today. And I feel like I've reached full enlightenment through the building blocks of what we've talked about over the years. And then this show is just a culmination of all those deeply rooted, you know, I'll call them truths. Every truth has a grain of salt or a counter side, but you know, that's really what formulated the show, and that's why we're able to talk about such an array of topics, is because we've thought about these things in depth before.
Yeah.
And this is just the.
And as I've, after some of our conversations, I've brought them up to coworkers or other friends, just like, hey, you know, I got this, you know, we did a show last night, and it was about this. We had some real thought-provoking points that were brought up that Evan or somebody in the chat had brought up. You know, it made me think, you know, kind of like this. And they're like, oh, that's really cool. Me and my friend talked about some of this stuff, and we kind of came to the conclusion of this. And I was like, well, that's unique. And I started to realize we all have these thoughts. We all think about aliens. We all think about ghosts. We all think about all this stuff. But we don't really talk about, you know, the crucial elements of like why we believe certain aspects of it. We don't really tie these things to stuff. Most people think ghosts are somebody died and that's them left over. But if you think about that, that doesn't make as much sense as it would be to say maybe it's something that's extra dimensional. Maybe it is some type of entity in a fourth dimension that looks at us as essentially a shadow. Maybe these are just reverbs. Maybe these things.
Yeah.
There's so many other elements. You know, there's unlimited elements that are not taken into account because of the narrative that we grew up with. Aliens are these creatures from outer space. Why do they have to be extraterrestrial? Why can't they be extra dimensional?
Yeah.
You know, what are they really traveling through? And these ideas and these topics we bring up, that's what it's meant to do, is just give you a little more thought, insight. You know, just a different angle, a different perspective to look at something.
Yeah.
You know?
So yeah, what is meta? And we even had conversations before we started this episode about kind of the quantum aspect of a lot of this stuff, and how, as human beings, we rely on things like science, but science can only tell us so much because, the cornerstone of science is things that are provable and repeatable, right? So you have to be able to replicate outcomes, and you have to be able to definitively say this is how it is 100% all the time. But not everything's like that. It's not so black and white.
And not always do you have the chance to talk to the scientist who told you this. You just read it. This is a chance to kind of have that argument and say, well, I think this. Science says this, but isn't it possible that this could be a factor? Well, I don't know. Let's talk about it. Let's try to figure it out.
Yeah.
We normally will have somebody running the show for us. They're going to be the ones to look this stuff up, fact check, proofread, whatever, blah, blah, blah. They're going to be the people who are going to take your ideas, run them through a thing, and see what they can find. They're the ones who are going to cover our ass if we say something that isn't true. I mean, that's the idea is,
Yeah, we're going to, we wanted this first episode to be just us, just to kind of lay everything out. But we've got people that we work with that, you'll see guests, you'll probably see some interviews, and we're always going to try to focus on making it interesting for the viewer. And yeah, I mean, like I was saying, it's the overall like assumption of what we are and why we're here and all that is pretty convoluted. I think we all kind of know the elements to that. I mean, there's like a spiritual side, there's a science side, there's like the anecdotal, like experience-based side. And yeah, that's kind of, we're trying to combine all that, and that's kind of what meta perspective means, at least to me, or at least to the show, is that all these things are considered. There is going to be some science-based stuff and some heavy stuff sometimes, and it's all. We're not trying to be like professors and teach you how the world works, but there's things that we can all agree on, and there's things that can be found interesting and areas to explore. And I think that's kind of that's the meta part of the perspective. Is it's not just our ideas are the meta perspective. It's that everything considered, what is the meta perspective?
Yeah, because obviously we know nothing about aliens, really. Nobody does. But it is obviously one of the most interesting topics that exist. Are we alone? I mean, it's one of the biggest topics, yet we know nothing about it. So, I mean, when it comes to conversation, the things I'm more interested in talking about are the things that we don't know anything about. It's like, we can talk about, dieting and all these things and what is best, but there's so many different perspectives on what is the best way to diet, body types. You can break it down in so many different ways to who you are, which is great. But there's people who dedicate their lives to doing that. I'd rather have a conversation of what does dieting, what does exercise, what does being healthy do for you? And what do you feel, what does it do for your mind? What does it do? What does all of this even do?
Yeah.
I'd rather have that conversation than try to tell you the facts and all the things, your BMI, blah, blah, blah. And you want to eat this type of thing. Unless you have this body type, you want to eat this type of thing. Or maybe you got some German in you. Go over to the the bratwurst and,
right.
We're not here to tell you.
Yeah, most of these things are very complex, and they're not, Yeah,
it's like the Greek definition of meta essentially is before, after, and beyond. That's really what we're here for, is the beyond. What have we not figured out yet? What have you not figured out? And if you figured it out and we didn't, we're talking about it, jump in and tell us, and we'll start talking about your idea. We don't care.
Like, I love that the title of that movie, Everything Everywhere All the Time.
Everything Everywhere All at Once?
Or yeah, all at once, yeah. Yeah, that's kind of that's in a lot of ways how the deeper level, if you take the veil of our senses and what we experience through a fourth dimensional time, that's kind of what's happening. It's and there's a spiritual aspect to all this too. It's I mean, we will get very spiritual on the show, and I think it kind of comes down to the fact that we both believe that there is some kind of higher power, and like, we're not gonna define it like in a religious sense, but I think we can all agree that there's something out there that the reason why this material universe exists
is from one central point. The Big Bang.
Yeah.
However you want to describe it, it comes from a singularity.
Or like a perfect equilibrium in the fact that if everything is possible, it can't exist any other way. Like, this is the perfect accumulation of all these factors. It's literally the waves touching point in the middle of the pool after the ripples have gone out and reflected and come back. And this is the only space where our consciousness can be sustained, because we are just really like, if you to the science side of things, we're a bunch of atoms that have formulated DNA and cells and all that, and like, that's all well and good, but how does a conscious being, a conscious existence, sustain itself over a lifetime when all of these cells are replaced? Like, there are very few cells in our body, like mainly our brain cells and things like that like have been there for most of that time, but who you were 10 years ago is not who you are now physically. But for whatever reason, we've allowed, our body allows us to sustain a conscious existence, and that is the interesting side of our experience in this reality. And I think that is worth exploring, and I think everybody needs to ask those questions of why are we here? Where are we going? Not necessarily just where do we come from? Ooh.
But
that's a debate. But like, where are we going is not a debate.
You made a good point. I mean, for example, why can I choose if I wanted to? Why can I choose to go on government subsidies and welfare, all these types of things, and stay home all the time, and let's say just do puzzles and choose not to change? Why is it that in the course of 50 years, my body's going to age and change so much, but I can maintain the same perspective I choose to have if I want to? Or I can go out, experience things, and allow my perspective to grow. While my body ages, my perspective has the illusion of not aging.
Yeah.
Why do I have that choice? Because I've changed so much, I don't have that illusion. I look at myself as an entirely different person weekly. It's like I'm constantly growing. Right. But I could also choose to not grow if I wanted to. I mean, there's so many different aspects to the human mind that it's hard not to say, hey, let's do a podcast. Let's get everybody together and try to figure out, deeper aspects or deeper perspectives into these things we all think about but never talk about.
And that's kind of an interesting angle too, is that, our memories and what has accumulated our conscious understanding of ourselves, being our ego in a way, and our experiences are basically just echoes of electromagnetic pulses throughout our brain that have been implanted into our plastic brain that just receives electrical signals. So like all these things, who you are, according to you, or anyone else for that matter, is a result of past, and is an imprint. It's like a photo imprint of brain matter on the current reality. Because, like you said, I feel like I have the ability to change. Maybe not on a daily basis, but a monthly basis. Like my personality and who I am is constantly progressing, and I understand that my judgments of my past actions are only happening in that moment. And I feel like that's where a lot of people get hung up, is they have a cosmic sense of self. People would call the ego, things like that, but it's not necessarily who you are determined forever. And I think that's kind of where people fall short on a lot of aspects of their life, is that they either blame things that they regret from the past, or they have anxiety for the future of outcomes that haven't even been realized yet.
Yeah.
So you're taking all this in the current moment, and you're trying to make sense of it all, and your brain basically distills the loudest of all that noise and give and yep, I got you.
Sorry, guys.
It basically gives you a sense of what your current reality is, and that is always up for question. Your current reality is not necessarily, it doesn't define you. It doesn't actually, let me put it this way. So if you're worried about, all right, hey, what's up?
Yeah, I wanna. Here, if you wanna hop in over here with me. Ugh. Stop wrapping myself in this. Go ahead. Yeah, perfect. Grab that. Just sit next to me. We'll share a mic for now.
This is why I said that this mic was for that side, because there's two mics over there.
Two other mics over here.
Yeah.
Makes sense, right?
What's up,
The
guys?
math adds up. So welcome. This is Charles, aka Mr. Chuck.
What's
and
going on, boys?
Mr. Chuck is potentially going to be the new.
He's part of the show.
He's the cockpit. He's the crew commander. He's the one who steers the ship.
You said cock.
But yeah, basically we're just going over what is meta perspective. Do you have anything you want to tell the people as far as what this means to you?
Let me rephrase. So, like, you've been a part of the show for maybe I'd say 4 episodes or so. Like,
Yeah.
you've come in, you kind of understand how it works, and we've kind of defined the show and stuff like that. But since joining, what does it mean to you, or what would you want to say about it for people listening? Like, why should they listen? You know what I mean?
I think there's a good sense of different perspectives for unique topics that typically don't get talked about, I think would be the best way to put it.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of knowledge and maybe some different avenues and aspects that haven't been really maybe thought about. I think a good podcast that was really fun was the what was the brain.
Oh yeah, the Neuralink.
The Neuralink. That was we went down a bunch of different avenues that that maybe weren't really thought about, pros and cons, and even we didn't. I know we're not about religious type of stuff, but we took also just kind of that point of view also.
Yeah, there's a spiritual aspect.
Yeah, and I think that we try and cover different avenues of different topics that maybe haven't been thought about or talked about.
And you make a good point there too, and that kind of brings up another reason why we do the show, is because we've outside of the show we talk about this stuff all the time.
Right.
So it's like when you're into this when you're in this situation and you have, you know, free thought evolving as it's going, and you have people chiming in, you know, you get to areas of your mind that you've never thought about.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's the coolest thing for me, for us, is that, you know, doing this show gets us to that new inspirational thought place, also as the viewer is getting to that
Yeah.
in the same time. And
Yeah,
that's
just
kinda,
like we were kind of talking about, you know, my kids go to church with their mom and grandma, and you know, we kind of talked through out on the patio, just talking through, and it gave me different perspective. Just kind of like, you know what, maybe I should just kind of rethink maybe how I look at this, and I think that's what this podcast is about, is bringing those conversations that maybe some of the viewers don't get the opportunity to have.
Yeah.
Maybe, or maybe there's a point of view that that they have that they've never really gotten a place to share it.
yeah.
And that's a great point. I mean, you know, most of us, a lot of times when we're talking to our friends and the people around us, if it's something like, for example, something like aliens or religion, you know, that's not something you're going to just bring up to a coworker. And you're not going to be like, hey, Cindy, what do you think about aliens? You know, she's going to be like,
What do you believe?
I'm working 12 hours today. I don't care about aliens. Get back to work. You know, it's kind of nice to have a place where it's like, yeah, maybe these are the topics, you know, even if it is something like religion. Maybe if you bring these up to your friends or a close family and they all share the same beliefs, you're going to get one-sided kind of like perspective.
Right.
Whether that's right or wrong, it doesn't matter. All you know is that one perspective. You don't know if it's right or wrong.
Right.
You know, and that's kind of the idea of the show, is to give you a place, a platform where you can go and you can talk about maybe your deeper issues. Because again, jumping in the chat isn't just about joining into the perspective and growing the perspective. It's also about giving us ideas, topics. You know, if there's
You're
something
influencing the show.
yeah, let's say there's something that's been on your mind for the past couple of years and you don't have anybody to talk to about it. This is the place to come and talk to about it. If you're like, I'm struggling with this in mental health, you know, you guys did one in the mental health episode, but I think it'd be more proactive to do a mental health episode on this specific topic. There's a lot here. All right, next week, I want you in the chat.
Yeah.
We're going to open the phone lines. I want you on the call. Like
Yeah.
we want to go over this topic with you, because you're right, that is a deep topic. You know, somebody could say, hey, I want to go over suicide.
Yeah, especially
We've
if
gone over
you're
mental
willing
health,
to
but
share
we haven't
your
talked about
experience,
suicide
like
really.
your
Yeah.
personal experience, like we'll use that, not at your, you know, not
at
a
your
detriment
detriment,
to
but yeah,
you, but
yeah.
yeah, you know, we'll use it to help others and get through what, you know, you went through, or
We all have experienced either knowing somebody or having the thoughts or what have you. Or you saw it on TV. I mean, regardless, we all know what it is. And it's good to have a better understanding of something, especially so serious like that.
yeah.
Yep.
You know, that's the whole point of the show, is we want you in to go over things that you want to talk about but don't have anybody to talk to about it.
And life is a trippy, fun experience, and that's the thing that bothers me. Like, one of the things that bothers me the most about people is that I look at people and they're just not having fun, or they're not enjoying life, and I know that, like, everything's relative, and, like, you know, the struggles of a tribesman 60,000 years ago might be way worse than ours, but we're gonna treat it the same way. You know, like, people just tend to react to things and like, oh, this has a negative influence on my life, so like this really sucks. But if you sit back and think about, you know, where we are in history and life, and how our lives have kind of come to this point, like, we really are in the best time in history. And, you know, it's sad to see so many people struggling with mental health at the height of our civilization.
I'd
Yeah.
almost say we're also in a very controversial time.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
There's that
100%.
too.
I would say, you know, there's if you've thought about it, it's probably happened at this point.
Yeah.
Right. And 2 points. And no, I think there's something nowadays. There's something out there for everyone. There really is. I mean, when we were growing up, was anime even a thing? No, that was.
I remember when I was in middle school, I had started watching anime and was out of it by high school because I realized that was not a thing people did.
It was just Dragon Ball Z. For me anyway.
Yeah, that
like,
Sailor Moon, Inuyasha, like there was a few old ones that like were kind of culty, but other than that, it's like, I mean, you look at it now, and now it's like, I mean, the first Demon Slayer movie that came out in theaters almost beat the new Mortal Kombat. It almost beat it in the box office. I mean, it was neck and neck.
Yeah.
And it blows my mind that you know, after a little over a decade.
Which is funny because the Mortal Kombat movie was playing like every hour, and the Demon Slayer movie might have been like once a night.
And
or twice
Mortal
a night.
Kombat was on HBO Max.
Oh, yeah.
But Demon Slayer was only in theaters. So there was
Sure
a lot
was
more
during
access
COVID.
to it. A ton more access to it. Versus Demon Slayer was only in theaters at these specific times, and it was either sub or dub. Subtitled or dubbed.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's crazy that it still was able to even compete, let alone almost beat.
Yeah.
You know,
And-
it's a great example.
You know what? At the same, to that too. I feel like people, you know, now that we have so much like so many influences coming at us at all times, it's like it's hard to filter that shit out. Honestly, there's so much generic bullshit. I'll say, just constantly bombarding our brain that people really gravitate towards real, tangible, enlightening thoughts, and that's people have been dumbed down from that potential. I feel like,
Oh yeah.
because of how things have progressed, and honestly, profits. But there's a lot of it comes down to people trying to make money and advertising and entertainment.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the entertainment industry is completely different today than it was. I mean, you look at 30 years ago, I'll probably even 40, you know, before I was born. I mean, if you look at what the entertainment industry offers now, I mean, you can be a millionaire and start a YouTube channel, and you're good at it. Like some of these kids, their kids are like 10 years old, got a YouTube channel making videos, and they're making more than mom and dad could have ever dreamed of. It's an incredible time to be an entrepreneur, to be honest.
yeah, definitely.
It's almost funny to look at somebody like Russell Brand, you know, who was a huge, I mean, like, arguably an A-list actor. I mean, he was at the B, but you know,
A to B,
he was
A/B.
A/B. You know, he had some pretty good roles, and for a while he was super popular.
Get him the Greek, great movie.
Great movie. Get Him to the Greek was fucking hilarious.
Dude, that is.
We can say that on YouTube, right? Yeah, we can say that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was a hilarious movie. A lot of the stuff he did was hilarious, but then he kind of got out of acting, started doing podcasts, and started getting a little more into the political side. But
Start doing podcasts.
start doing podcasts, mate. But when you really started to, I don't think mate's one of his things. But when
Says
you
mate.
does he say
Keep
mate?
going.
I'm
That's
sure
a
he does.
British thing.
It is.
It is.
Yeah.
But
And
hello, mate.
It's like
It's
like
Australian,
us.
isn't
It's
it?
like
it's like
us
no
saying
offense,
more
no offense,
Australian.
and the C word,
Hello,
honestly.
mate.
Like British people
You
throw
bloody
the C
cunt.
word
Oh.
like pepper,
yes.
and like
Yeah.
we're all, like Americans are offended by it. I mean, obviously,
Yeah, you bloody
it's an
cunt.
offensive word, but
Did
it's
you just
like,
call me a bloody cunt?
You know, somebody gave me the best. What cunt stands for?
See you next Tuesday.
No, can't understand normal thinking.
I don't mean anything like it's not that derogatory. I'm just saying
Guilty.
you don't understand.
Guilty.
I'm just saying you don't understand. I don't know why you're getting so mad at the word.
I don't know. That was-
I just called you a cunt.
see, we get a little offensive, but
Yeah,
you know, not
properly,
necessarily.
properly.
And we try to stay away from politics on the show because, you know, no one really wants to.
Nobody cares.
Nobody wants to.
Nobody cares about
grind their
politics.
gears on that shit. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Like,
if you want to get
we're
mad,
trying to find out the fundamentals.
if you want to get mad, there's Nancy Pelosi's and Ben Shapiro's everywhere. You know, go watch one of those. We're here to just relax and have conversations about just some interesting stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not here to tell you about
Not
X,
divide,
Y, Z.
bringing
you know?
things together, not dividing them.
Yeah.
That's
And that's kind of what I was getting at with Russell Brand is like while he goes political, he stays kind of a somewhat neutral area. You know, he would tie himself more Democrat, but when you hear a lot of his views, they come off, you know, a lot of Republican. You know,
He's a free thinker.
He's
you know?
he's a free thinker. He's very much in the middle, as far as I can tell. I mean, you guys in the chat may correct me on that, but I think he's, for the most part, from what I've seen, he's kind of in the middle. But it like you were saying, it does blow my mind that somebody like Russell Brand, who's an A/B-list actor, can switch to podcasting and make a career out of it and go away from acting. I mean, it blows my mind that in this time we have that type of freedom to do that. Like you said, we live in one of the most interesting times to be alive, yet with mental health, we have more depression, more suicides, more unhappy people than ever when we have the option of doing anything. And I think that's part of the problem is a lot of people look at it as, well, everything's already been done. What do I do? And it's not about creating a new outlet or a new avenue.
Yeah.
It's about taking yourself and applying it where you feel. Like, yeah, there's a million podcasts. You think I didn't think about, like, how stupid is it to make a podcast and then hire to making podcasts? Yeah, I knew it was stupid.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I had stuff I wanted to say, and I had an angle I felt that wasn't really taken, and it's fun to do.
And that's one thing too, is that I've learned over the years as a creator, is that those defeating thoughts. I mean, this factors into the mental health thing too, because there's so many people that want to do something. They're like, oh, I want to like get into this,
But they want to stand out
but
with a
they're
new
like,
thing.
oh, there's so many people doing it. Like, I won't do it.
Yep.
Like, don't not do it because there's other people doing it.
Right.
For
If it's fun to you, it's fun.
Right,
At
if
the
it's
end of the
fun-
day, that's all.
Exactly.
Who cares if somebody's doing it?
Right.
There are so many times that I can remember in high school that, I personally just did whatever I wanted. Like, if everybody, I don't remember exactly, but everybody thought this one thing was super cool, and I thought it was the stupidest thing on the planet. And guess what? I didn't do it. But then there was other things where,
Probably like 10 examples.
yeah, there's plenty of them. But then there's also other things that. Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
Gonna shut off my volume.
You're fine.
But there are other things that, at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is I did what made me happy.
Yeah.
Whether anybody else thought it was cool or not cool or was the first person to do it, that was neither here nor there. And I think everybody is so, I think people try and be like, well, I want to separate myself from the pack by being the first to do something.
Yeah.
Man, good luck at this point. Like,
Yeah.
good luck. I mean,
Or I want to wait until I'm ready, or I'm afraid of failing. All these things they kill creativity, and that's why everyone's fallen in such a mental health crisis and such a follower attitude, is that you're afraid to be unique. You're afraid to step out of your boundaries.
right.
I mean, that's the hard truth of it. It's like, yeah, there's probably like 10 other podcasts that are doing what we're doing right now, and I just don't know about them. But it's not going to stop me from doing it.
Yeah.
And
100%.
it's a great point, because there are podcasts, and I thought about this even as we were doing ours. About halfway through, I was like, we're doing this. It's like, but a lot of people do podcasts, and then as I was watching stuff, it hit me. I was like, I just found this podcast that's been saying this stuff, and I was like, thank God somebody finally said it, and I jumped in. You can keep coming to the conclusion of, well, he finally said it, I'm going to follow him. A month later, he finally said it, I'm going to follow him. But at what point are you going to realize it's not about the podcast, it's about the content. It's not about what you do, it's about how you do it. And I think a lot of people, like you said, have that problem of saying, well, everybody does podcasts. Why should I do a podcast? I want to do something new. I want to do something that stands out. It's like some of the most successful podcasters are people who are new even, who are just saying stuff that everybody's thought about, but nobody's has the guts to talk about it. It's like you said, a lot of people are just scared to be unique. Even if it's a podcast, and a podcast isn't unique, but you can be unique on a podcast.
I think,
like video games aren't unique, but you can be unique playing video games. There's things you can apply yourself to. You just got to have faith in who you are. That's really what it comes down to.
And I think people are afraid to be themselves, to be honest, because people are so worried about judgment
A lot of
from
scrutiny.
others.
Yeah.
That is the number one. They're like, well, how's this gonna make? How am I gonna look if I do this?
Yeah.
Like,
or if I post this video, who's gonna see it?
right? Is anybody even gonna care?
Or is my boss gonna see it?
Well, and for me, it's like, at the same time, like, and this is just in life in general, and anything you do, fuck it. I hate to say it, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, who cares what everybody else thinks? If
The whole
you
world's
enjoy it,
ending anyway.
Yeah.
if you enjoy it, go do it. I'm 34 years old. I got 2 kids, an 8 and a 9, or 8 and 9. Yeah, 8 and 9. Whew, I had to think about that one for a minute. Guess what? I bought a Nintendo Switch for myself last week. I spent 3 or 4 days gaming for 10 hours. I haven't done that since I was like probably 20,
kid.
21 years old.
Yeah.
And dude, you know what? I hadn't been that happy in so long. Just
Yeah.
calm, chilled, relaxed, nothing bothered. I didn't leave my house for 3 days.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to be honest. I didn't shower either. I just was like, woke up, went to gaming. I was like, this is great. This is incredible. And you know what? I don't care what anybody else thought about it.
It's nice to have those moments where you're not judged. Nobody's going to be around. What's the point of showering if it doesn't offend yourself?
See that?
You let
all
your
right.
body get back into its own function. Smell a little bit. Who gives a
That's-
fuck?
okay,
Nobody's
I'm
around to
s-
offend.
I'm seeing
You get
this
to
now.
exist within yourself and have that moment of just like raw you before getting back into what is reality. You
Right.
know, all these things. It's therapy.
So I'm seeing all this kind of culminate here now. So it's like, we have so much stimulus from other people, making us constantly judge and assess ourselves compared to others. At the same time, we have so many things we can do to entertain ourselves, and at the same time, you kind of question, like, are these things that I'm doing, are they worth anything? And you mix that with, like, kind of the first one is other people's perspectives and judgment of you, and kind of how you see yourself. And, like, it's a tough existence to feel fulfilled in a life that has all these fulfilling aspects that aren't you, and you kind of wonder where you fit in, or like what your purpose is.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't have a lack of purpose.
I would agree with that.
I think that the
Highly agree
majority,
with that.
I would think that the majority has a lack of purpose. I mean, I've experienced it myself. I think it's probably one of the most common things we all experience is that, what is my purpose? Why am I here? What can I do that separates me? What is my gift that I can give?
Yeah.
What is it? What am I? What do I, and I think a lot of it is because, like you said, it's overstimulus, where you got so much going on and you feed into so much, you don't know what you can give when you're taking from everything. It's like,
I could get into computers and learn how to be a coder, but like there's
so many
10
other
million great coders,
and
it's
they've
like
been doing it for 20 plus
like
years.
what's the point? I have no purpose.
I mean, I have to have a new angle to get into here and make a difference. And what
Yeah.
my new angle be if these guys have been doing it for 20 years? It's all doubt. And realistically, it's all perspective. I've walked up into a conversation with people talking about something deep, and for example, specific video game. Everybody was like, they played more than I did. And these 3 guys are all talking about the specific game, going ham on like how this works. And I walked in and I gave I did the game like a child. I just jumped in, knocked it out, and I was like, okay, I tried to find the easy route, and I did it. And I was like, well, if you kind of do it this way, and then they were blown away. They hadn't seen that perspective. Yet they were better than me. They'd been playing longer than me, but I had a different route to take. And that's what a lot of it is it doesn't matter how much experience people have. If you tell yourself, I have nothing to offer because they've been doing this longer, you're not comprehending the true power that you have, that is your uniqueness of saying, these guys have been doing this for 20 years, but who says I couldn't just jump in, figure this out, and come from a different angle and make all of these guys rethink their 20 years. That's science. That's everything.
Yeah.
That's life, man.
Yeah. There's actually there's an interesting. So I was reading a book. The author Tim Ferriss. I don't know if are you guys familiar with him?
Bueller.
He's kind of like
Bueller.
He helps influences people's lives, and he's somebody that just kind of took a risk and went with it. But he ended up, he was teaching at a class in Princeton or something for entrepreneurial business or whatever. And basically he said to the students, I will give anyone a round trip ticket if they can accomplish this one task, this quest. And you have to contact someone who's famous or celebrity CEOs, someone who is notably famous, ask them 3 questions, and then write a response to me of your experience. And I will give you a round trip ticket to anywhere you want to go in the world. Well, the first class that he did this to, he had 21 students meet him after class and were interested in this sacred quest. And he had one response from those 21 students, and he had no choice but to grant the one response, because it could have just been a paragraph. It could have been 2 sentences. Bullshit. He would have been obligated to give the response. He did this same experiment again with a whole new group of students, and he told them about the first group of students and how each one of them didn't do it because of the competition aspect, because they thought that someone else would outdo them. They thought it was too hard. They had all these excuses, and they didn't try. They didn't even attempt.
But one guy wrote some nonsense and got a free trip.
And then he told the second group of students. He said the second group of students was probably I think 15 or maybe 7 or. Only one of them didn't do it. It was 15 students, 14 of them accomplished the goal, called celebrities or businessmen and asked them questions, and actually pursued this thing. And it just speaks to, there's so many fish out there. You think that you're just a drop in the bucket, but the most unachievable things are the least attempted. And for you to go for something that's unachievable it's more likely that you're going to achieve that than if you go for something that everyone else is doing, or the standard easy thing.
I'm glad you brought that up. That's a really good point, because that's really what most of it comes down to. Is a lot of people do not make the effort because they assume other people are already making the effort for them, which is this lazy mind of well, I don't have to take down the gunman because somebody else will do it. It's
right. I don't have to call the police.
Somebody has to be. I don't have to call the police. Somebody else is probably already calling them. There's always that someone else is going to do it. There's enough people, and we all have the same understanding. Somebody else will do it. It's hive mind. Somebody else will figure it out. But what a lot of people don't understand is we all have that perspective, majority speaking. So a lot of times things don't get done because the majority just assumes it'll get done. And a lot of people don't realize that, the podcast where somebody's I want to make a podcast, but I don't know what I'd say. And then as a result, somebody else makes a podcast and they're like, oh, wow, You know, let's say a year later, they
Is that guy going to be joining us, by the way?
which one?
The guy.
Oh, the guy over here. My podcast is.
He's always here in spirit.
I would love to meet this guy with that voice. I'd be like, speak to me.
He's in the basement.
There is a basement in the basement. We don't talk about. We're gonna cut that part.
Put
But
the lotion on.
The reception doesn't get there.
again.
It's a hole, really, and then there's a crank.
basket.
hose as much
Put the lotion in the fucking basket.
a bucket we dump. But yeah, I mean, but that's the idea. Is a lot of people will say, "What's the point of making a podcast?" You know, so many people already do it. If I have an idea, it's already being done. And then a year later, a podcast come out, and they're like, "Oh my god!" Like that's literally the stuff I think about. Well, a year ago, you should have started the stuff you thought about because you would have been the pioneer on that. You would have been in his place. But he took the limelight because you didn't do it. And that's the thing is a lot of people say, you know, why should I jump into this area of, for example, podcasting when everybody else is doing it? Why? Because nobody else is doing this the way we're doing this with the mindset we have. Yeah, there's people doing similar things, but they're not us. And that's really what it comes down to.
But and just kind of pulling this back to almost like people feeling like they may not have a necessarily a purpose or they got to be the first.
Period.
Who cares?
That
Who
might have
cares
been
if
me.
you're not the
Was
first
that
to
me?
do it? If you
did
enjoy
just-
it and it's fun.
My elbow hits-
Honestly,
yeah.
this is my 4th, 5th episode that I've been on. By the way, and I'm sorry I'm late.
No.
Forgiven. You've been forgiven.
Oh, thank you. All right, but
Go on, my child.
no, like I do this honestly because it's fun.
Yeah.
I do this for joy because it's fun doing it.
No, we barbecue, we drink, cigars,
Right.
smoke, whatever before.
Get to hang
Then
out
we
with the
come-
boys.
then we come down and have some conversation, man. I mean, that's
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
life.
yeah.
Eat, drink, be merry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just miss the be merry part, and that's
Tell me about
Yeah.
it.
that's.
I mean,
At the end of the day, I mean, I'll speak this and I'll be done with this topic. Is just, man, at the end of the day, do what you want to do that's going to make you happy, and if financially to get that point where you feel like you're going to have happiness, sacrifice the short-term wants for your long-term vision and happiness.
Yes.
Like if you think this thing is gonna make you happy and you need a certain amount to get there, then just sacrifice what you need to sacrifice, get to where you need to be, and make your life enjoyable for yourself. And don't do it for anybody else.
right.
Unless you have children, you can do it for them. But outside of that, I mean,
Yeah.
find things in life that make you happy, whether everybody's doing it or nobody's doing it. Stop caring what other people think.
Yeah. Honestly, that's as well as you can put that. Because the reason we even started a podcast wasn't because we thought we had this unique thing and all this stuff. We just said, you know what? Regardless, we know there's so much competition in this market. It's endless competition here. But at the same time, we wanted to do it. We said, what's a better excuse for a Monday than to like barbecue, have drinks, smoke cigars,
Yeah.
hang out, invite
Talk
people
about some
over. We
cool
all
shit.
and then just go downstairs afterwards or go to the studio across the street and and have like a deep conversation. Do this. Yeah, I'm sure this stuff's being done, but we don't do it for any reason other than just experience and the fact that it makes us happy.
So I got something to that too. And this will resonate with viewers out there. You know, like so much that we do in our life is like chasing like money and like, you know, it would be great to be rich. It'd be great to be a millionaire or a billionaire or whatever. And like I came to the realization at some point in the
I did
past
do that with my elbow. Look at
several
this.
years.
Bam, 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 bam. I'm almost impressed how quick I can do that.
Period.
Sorry, go
Period.
on.
Oh.
Period.
So,
Period.
Yeah,
Oh.
like so many people focus on the material or the monetary value or wealth. And I realize, and I tell people this all the time. If I had $1 billion, I would be doing this.
$1 billion? That's crazy.
I'd be hanging out with friends, having some drinks, talking about cool shit.
And barbecuing.
I have everything
is
that
a
I
big
need.
one.
You know, my life is fulfilled. I mean, yeah, I'd love to not work, obviously. If I didn't have to work, that would be great. But as far as my achievable goals of what makes me happy, I already have it. I don't need $1 million.
Amen, brother.
And at the same time, it's like, you know, you putting stuff out there and being creative and creating something. You know, there's one school of thought where like, oh, maybe the masses and all these people that I don't know will see it and they'll think I'm cool and I'll feel fulfilled. But no, it's the individual interactions where you show someone, it's your friend or somebody you know, like, oh, yeah, I have a podcast, like, listen to it. And they're like, fuck yeah, dude, you do a podcast? This is cool. Like, that is way more fulfilling than somebody, like 50,000 people you don't know saying that you're, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had
that interaction and the
And
reason for doing something is way more valuable than
Yeah.
people you don't know.
And
That's
to
what gives
one
you-
up that, one of the best things, one of the best experiences for me is when I share this with somebody. They say, oh, that's really cool, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, would you want to come on? And they're like, yeah. And then we get somebody who's seen the podcast. They come over, we barbecue, have some drinks, we smoke, whatever. We're all hanging out. And then we come downstairs and we do it. And it ends up being an amazing show. Yeah. And that random person who just jumped on has some, I mean, you were a random person at some point.
I was
and,
rando.
and you had amazing stuff to say. You fit in perfectly. It was just everything's natural, you know, because it's just friends having conversations, so it works naturally. Guys, sit bottoms. We never touch tips, but
That is fantastic.
but that's
Bottom to tip.
Hey, this is getting weird. but
I was empty.
oh, I canceled
Shooting
our
blanks.
first day on YouTube.
Really?
And it was with beer bottles.
Hilarious.
The last 3 minutes.
But no, that's one of my greatest experiences is not just doing the podcast, but telling somebody we do it. They love it so much they want to be part of it when you bring them on.
Yeah.
There's no awkward parts. They just enjoy being on it. It ends up being a really good episode because of them. And then as a result, like, that person gets the experience of, you know, I mean, you could have no views. It doesn't matter. They still got to sit there and face a fear or say what they need to say, and it's recorded. I mean, regardless, it's some part of them is off their chest, and they're like, I did something I didn't think I would do.
Yeah.
And the fact that we can even give that experience to multiple people, or the fact that we can even give that experience to ourselves, you know, is something that we did chase after, that we did accomplish, that we did do. And I challenge everybody, regardless of how silly it may seem or how much it may hurt your chances with women, you know, follow it. Follow.
All right. So we're getting almost to an hour. I want to
podcast
keep
gets
this
girls,
under.
man.
I want to keep this under 1 hour. We're at 59 minutes now. We got less than 1 minute to go.
Hurry.
I will say if you are watching episode 1 and we acknowledge this in the future, let's code word. What's the code word? I don't know.
The code word is
EP1 hashtag
something meta.
Meta1.
Meta P1.
Meta P1.
Meta P1. MP1. MP1.
If you acknowledge MP1 in the future, we'll find a way to acknowledge you.
Or get you free merch or something. I don't know.
Yeah, this
MP1.
Just write it down.
code words. Code word.
Code words.
This is meta. This is in the future. I'm talking to you
MP1 in the future.
In the future.
Beyond.
Anyway, guys, thanks for watching.
Meta Perspective Podcast, signing out.
Meta Perspective Podcast.